Your speech here at Web Summit has been talking about how the US has lost competitiveness. What do you mean by that?
The perspective from which I view this problem of corporate financialization. So understanding corporate innovation gives you an understanding of how corporations become profitable. And then the question is, what do they do with the profits? I want to work for a company that's profitable. But I don't want that company, when it's profitable, for someone who has had nothing to do with generating those profits to come in and say, oh, we don't need you anymore, and I'm taking the profits that you created. And that's what's basically happened in the United States under the ideology that companies should be run to maximize shareholder value, which did not really exist as an articulated ideology in the first half of the 1980s. Basically, since that time, I've followed this financialization of the U.S. Corporate economy, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse. I focus particularly on the practice of companies repurchasing their own shares on the open market or stock buybacks. I was observing stock buybacks and saying, these have gotten worse and worse, are on top of dividends, and I noticed that between 2003 and 2007, among the S&P 500 companies, stock buybacks went from an average of 300 million to 1.2 billion per company. This is what companies are doing with their profits. This is not good.
Where do you see both the US and the China economies moving forward?
It's obvious, it's hard to say because the US policies now are so unpredictable. So that it's really, and it's hard to say what damage all these policies are going to do to global relations, never mind just with China. What I did see from the US perspective was people who were worried about Chinese dominance ignore the reason for the US falling behind, the things that I talk about, corporate financialization. In the United States, basically, the problem's been swept under the rug or ignored. Because ultimately, I think there's two things that happen when you get this corporate financialization. When you have those profits there, and people are saying, okay, we're going to give 100%, sometimes even 200% of profits over a decade to shareholders. And how they do that, they do it by taking on debt, they do it by laying off workers, selling assets. When you do that, you're not doing two other things. You're not saying, can we give more to our employees and make their jobs both more secure, better paid, and create more employment opportunity over a lifetime for them. And then the other thing is looking forward is what's going to be our next generation of competitive and hence profitable products. And companies stop doing that. They stop doing both those things. And it has a debilitating effect both on the economic opportunity for the workforce and also for the technologies in which they're investing, and the two go hand in hand. The countries that are going to treat their labor force better are going to be stabler companies, and they're going to be ones that are attracting people. And the United States had a huge advantage in this. We'll see how quickly it dissipates with what's going on under Trump. But I live 10 minutes from Harvard University. I know the place very well. I mean, if these policies go through, and if you actually pull all this funding from Harvard, and I wouldn't go and vouch for all of it myself, but you pull all this funding and say they can't have an international student, they can't be tax exempt and get donations, blah, blah, blah. You could just, it doesn't matter if 3 years from now you turn that around, the damage is going to be huge.